Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about how to best use the Dent Locator app. So we're going to click on the icon and it's going to give us this little splash screen right here that's going to tell us a little bit about the best practices. You want to turn your brightness on your device to maximum. You want to set the automatic nighttime dimming to off. That means sometimes when you walk into a room and it's dark, it'll automatically dim your device. You want to turn that off in your settings. The app is best used in the dark. The phones and tablets that get used don't have a tremendous amount of brightness, and so it's going to be very difficult for them to compete against the sunlight. So you want to be able to do this in either a dark room, like a garage, or perhaps maybe with the aid of some kind of umbrella or anything that would shade the sun. But like I said, the best case scenario is going to be in the pitch dark. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the app works. It's going to start off with this kind of grid looking screen. Now the way you turn this grid off is you either uncheck one of these. You can see now that all we have are horizontal lines. And if I leave that checked, now all we have are vertical lines. You can use these controls for thickness and distance that controls the thickness of the white or the black area. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and move this over here. And you can see how the black area gets super thick at that point. It's really not too usable at that thickness. I mean, usually what I do is keep it somewhere around probably between, say, a 2 and about a 10. Depending on the device you're using, the lines will be bigger or smaller. So if you're using a phone like this one, instead of say a 12-inch Android tablet or something, well, on the phone you might choose to use a 10 or an 11, whereas on the tablet you might choose to use, say, a 5, because it's not going to be quite the same. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at using the grid here. I personally like to use the grid when it's about a 4-to-1 ratio. I like there to be a lot of white, and I like the lines to be black. If you're working on a dark color vehicle, the white works real well. If you're working on a lighter color vehicle, you may consider changing the colors over here to yellow and black. You can change both of these to anything that you want. I typically just stick with black and white on most circumstances. You can go ahead and also use the gradient tool if you'd like. The gradient tool is mainly for the lines like this, so you can see kind of how a gradient looks there. The gradient's okay. I find the lines are probably the most useful for me. When you get down to, I'd say, less than about a 3 or a 4, you've got really small lines there. And when you're moving across the surface of the vehicle that you're inspecting for the hail damage, then you're going to want to make sure that you're moving super slow, because the smaller the lines you have, the slower you need to go. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the line thickness. Let's move down to a really small line thickness, say a 3 and a 3. When I'm dealing with lines, I usually like to keep them in equal parts as opposed to, working with, say, a gradient or working with actually the grid, right? I have a 3 and a 3 here. Now these are very, very small lines right here, and if you're able to see anything, any of the damage using these lines, you're going to have to move really, really slow. So let's go ahead and move that up just a little bit to something that's probably a little more useful. This one's going to allow you to find the really, really small dents. There again, you're going to have to move slow. The thinner the lines, the more accurate you're going to be, but the slower that you're going to be able to move that tablet across the surface of the vehicle, because if you move too fast, you'll miss the dent. Let's go ahead and move this up a little bit here. These are much thicker lines here, and you'll be able to move a little faster, but there again, you're not going to have the same sensitivity. You might miss some smaller dents that you would pick up with the smaller thicknesses of lines. You can also set defaults, okay? Let's take a look at what that means. Let's say that you knew that you liked this right here. You could save this as a default. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the app off because we've saved it as a default. And let's start the app up again. Now you can see that it did save it as a default. And so if you do change the lines, let's go over here, and you mess it all up and then you want to go back to default, you don't have to turn the app off and then load it again, okay? You just click right here, load default, and it's going to do that for you. So aside from the colors and the horizontal and the vertical lines and the grid, that's pretty much everything that you're going to have to deal with in the Android version of this program. Now the Windows version does a little bit more, although it doesn't really do a whole lot more that you're going to need to use. It allows you to scroll the lines automatically. It moves for you and stuff, but in all sincerity, using them still like this is actually probably better. Now, of course, you're going to want to use this arrow key right here to maximize and minimize this, because obviously you don't want this on the screen when you're trying to find the dents. You want a full screen. So that's what that's for. Now, I do want to warn you that just hitting the home key, this home key does not turn the app off. It's going to stay running in the background, so when you click on it again, it's not loading up the splash screen or anything. It's just taking you right back here. In order to completely exit the program, then you want to hit the exit button right here. And lastly, I guess it goes without saying that when you have the lines running horizontally this way, then you're going to be wanting to move the device up and down to try and find the dent. You don't want to move it this way. If you have the lines vertical, then you'd want to be moving the phone or the tablet to the left and the right across the grain of the stripes. Now, if you're in the grid, then you're more than likely going to want to move kind of in a circular motion. That way it picks up the dent a little bit better. So you're just going to have to play with the app a little bit. Now, finally, I want to end with this. Do not forget two main things, and that is you want to do this in very low light. For best results, pitch black. You want to have no sunlight or any light whatsoever other than the light of your device. The second thing is move slowly, because if you're moving this thing across the vehicle really fast, you're not going to see much. You've got to move slow. So that's it, and I hope you enjoy the app.